This is Art Watch, with a focus on local art and art history happenings in our area. The theme for our show today is artist Andrew Wyeth, where both the Brandywine River Museum of Art and the Somerville Manning Gallery in Greenville, Delaware, are celebrating artist Andrew Wyeth's centennial with two exciting new exhibitions. My guests on the radio today are director of the Brandywine River Museum of Art, Tom Padon, and owner of the Somerville Manning Gallery, Vickie Manning. Welcome, Tom and Vickie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, before I get to these wonderful guests, in keeping with the historic bent of Jean Passal's Living History radio show, let's go back in time 100 years to the birth of artist Andrew Wyeth. Andrew Wyeth was born July 12, 1917, in Chadds Pennsylvania. His father was famed Scribner illustrator and accomplished painter N.C. Wyeth, who taught Andrew Wyeth as well as many others in his studio at Chadds Ford. N.C. Wyeth had 5 children, all of whom were artists in painting or music, and were in many cases married to well-known artists, and also had children that were artists. The enormous collective influence of the Wyeths on American art and on the art of the Brandywine Valley is a profound one, and we are most fortunate to live in this area where the Brandywine River Museum of Art and also the Somerville Manning Gallery highlight the works of the Wyeths in each of their collections. The Brandywine River Museum of Art currently hosts the blockbuster show Andrew Wyeth in Retrospect from June 24th through September 27th.
September 17th.
Oh, shoot, really? Thanks for the clarification. Are you serious?
We'd love to have it for 1 week longer, but September 17th.
The Somerville Manning Gallery shows Andrew Wyeth a survey from June 5th through July 29th. Correct, Vickie? All
That's right.
These are both must-see exhibits, so let's hear more about them from our guests. So, Tom, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about the upcoming Andrew Wyeth Centennial exhibition, Andrew Wyeth in Retrospect?
So we're so excited to organize this exhibition. It's the largest ever in the museum's history, and we thought this is our 50th anniversary at the Brandywine. It's also would have been Andrew Wyeth's 100th birthday, so we thought it was a great opportunity to take a new look at his work. And we partnered with the National Gallery of Art about 4 years ago for a 2-part Scholars Day, and that was the beginning of our really digging into new points of view about the artist and working towards this exhibition. So this has been in the works for about 3.5 years.
My goodness.
Yeah, so what we found out was there was a lot of new perspectives that we could bring to this. So this is, again, the largest show we've done. We have 104 works coming here from all over the country, 40 lenders. It absolutely, you'll see it on billboards, but it is a once-in-a-lifetime exhibition, and we're really excited by the points of view that the curators are bringing to this and what will be in the accompanying catalog.
How is the museum being redesigned to allow for this collection?
We're kind of reconfiguring the entire museum. So for people that know the Brandywine, it'll be the entire 3rd and 2nd floor galleries in our historic mill building. So it's a very large exhibition, and it covers his entire career.
So does it flow through, by year?
It's organized by decades, and we thought that was really important. The 2 guest curators, the Brandywine Audrey Lewis and the Seattle Art Museum's Patty Junker, we partnered with Seattle for this show, have organized this decade by decade, because it's really then that you start to see these kind of very subtle experimentations in his work and what's really appealing to him in different periods of his life.
Are you going to be having any curatorial discussions or?
Well, we have a huge raft of public programs, which it's probably easier to just for everyone to go to our website and look. But we have really fascinating discussions with the guest curators, some of the scholars that have written for the book. Jamie Wyeth is going to be talking about his father as an artist and his own perspectives. On July 12th, which was Andrew Wyeth's birthday, the Brandywine Brandywine petitioned the United States Postal Service to do a stamp, so they're doing a commemorative stamp.
We're kind of having... Yeah, you better get them now.
It's going to be great to see Andrew Wyeth on all of our letters, but that's on July 12th, and the museum will be open free that day, so it'll be a really exciting
You have no excuses, everybody, okay? Get to the museum.
No excuses. We'll see you there.
And then become a member, but that's my personal thing. Do you know what the image is on the stamp?
Yes, but I don't know offhand. I don't know them offhand, but the Postal Service actually makes that determination. So you're able to kind of nominate an artist to do that, which we did, and made a case statement for it, and then they are involved in selecting the work.
Wow. Well, that's very exciting. Can you tell us, Vickie, can you tell us a little bit about the Andrew Wyeth show that you are celebrating at the Somerville Manning Gallery?
We're doing a show, Andrew Wyeth, a survey, and it will have work from every decade, beginning even when he was 16 years old. There is a painting, a painting that he did of his sister Carolyn painting, and then it will go through to the year 2000. So there is a survey of time by individual works. It's not anywhere near the scope of Tom's show. It's about 25 works. There'll be one tempera painting, mostly watercolors, which was really his primary medium, and then a few studies in pencil and watercolor.
Will people be able to purchase these paintings or just look at them?
They will all be for purchase.
Because you're a gallery.
I'm a gallery, yes.
That makes sense.
But not print. Go to the Brandywine to get to the bookshop in the Brandywine for the prints.
Very good. And then let's say after the show is over, because it's not a really long run on your show, is it still possible to purchase Andrew Wyeth paintings through you or Wyeth work?
Well, the gallery has always specialized in the Wyeth family as well as other living artists and non-living artists American. But we always have NC, Andrew, Jamie in the gallery, as well as other members of the family, McCoys, Hurds, et cetera.
And how long have you been representing the work of the Wyeths?
I've had the gallery. I've had the gallery for 35 years, and before that, I worked for another gallery in Bryn Mawr for 4 or 5 years. And I think at that time, I started working with Nicky Wyeth, who is Andy's son, and he was and is a dealer of his work, and he really taught me a lot. And then I opened in Wilmington, which was closer to where I lived. I was in Chadds Ford, and sort of started with some of the various members of the family, always sort of private dealt with Andy or Jamie and NC, and then I really got involved when in the 80s I started representing the estate of NC Wyeth. And all of that work had gone to through Mrs. N.C. Wyeth to the middle daughter, Carolyn. And Andy was the executor of that. So I worked with Andy and Carolyn during those days.
Was that exciting?
Oh, yeah, it was great. It was great. That's another whole hoot.
And I think it's so interesting that these exhibitions coincide, because there's a real sense of place, I think, with Andrew Wyeth, and of course Vickie's been showing the Wyeth families for so long. We're intimately tied at the Brandywine to the Wyeth family, because not only we have so many works of the 3 generations of artists, but we have the house where N.C. Wyeth built this house. All the Wyeth children grew up there. We have N.C. Wyeth's studio, where Andrew Wyeth learned to paint. His own studio, which was a very intimate place where not a lot of people got to see it, and then the Kerner Farm property, which inspired his work for 5 decades. So there's a real sense of place and a layered experience to people that come to the exhibition, and also like to Somerville Manning, because it's in this historic building as well.
I love the building.
Yeah.
I love where you're.
We're in Breck's Mill, which is a 1814 mill. It belongs to Hagley Museum, but it's right outside the gates. It's on a waterfall on the Brandywine. It's an historic site of Delaware. And I think, too, I know when I was on Route 52 for 12 years, and then moved to the mill. And I think that I thought the setting was so incredible for showing art. It was such an optimum place. And
there's some parallels there.
Yeah,
I know. I agree.
19th century mill buildings right on the river. Very intimate settings for his work.
Yep.
Much in the way he presented it himself when he lived with.
When we first moved there too, what struck me was, and at that point, that was in the 90s, and I was really still primarily working with Andrew Wyeth because I had mentioned that I had the estate, which then all went to the Brandywine in 1994 when Carolyn died, and
Good call.
And then right around that point, we moved to the mill, and I remember looking at these paintings of Andrew Wyeth and thinking, this is the showing him in Pennsylvania where we all both are. This is the atmosphere he was painting in. Even when he was doing medieval subjects, that he was looking at the Brandywine. He was looking at our area, and you see the real light that he was painting in right here.
You do. And also, to people that come to the Brandywine and that surrounding area, the activities of the Brandywine Conservancy, which is the other half of our organization, has really been instrumental in protecting that landscape. So when people come there, they can come see the exhibition and the paintings and the landscapes that he did, and then when they go out into the landscape, for instance, to visit our historic properties, they see what he was painting. And
there are also opportunities for people to see plein air painters doing their thing, either on the Kerner farm or thereabouts on the Brandywine properties. And it's just the way you tie it in, the whole full feeling of this artist and his family and their impact on this area is really wonderful, both from the creative side, from the collecting side, and in the nature around them. So it's a lovely thing. I'm looking forward to getting back to you guys after the break.
Do you have a wedding, graduation, baptism, confirmation, milestone, or birthday to plan? You need John Sirach Catering, one of the most highly rated and preferred caterers throughout the Philadelphia area. They will be there to create and cater your event while assisting as much or as little as you desire. Planning a decadent, over-the-top company gala? Need help transforming your backyard into the party of the year? Want to wow your clients with a delicious luncheon? Then you need John Sirach Catering. All you have to do is call, and they'll handle the rest. Located at 835 Lincoln Avenue in Westchester, visit them at SirachCatering.com or call 610-640-2836. That's 610-640-2836.
If you had to choose a roofer, would you choose one with limited experience and knowledge, or would you choose a roofer certified as a master elite contractor by the largest manufacturer in the nation, GAF, a distinction shared by only 3% of the nation's roofers? I'm talking about GP Martini Roofing, who also does siding, windows, doors, and offers an ironclad guarantee that he'll repair or replace any roof for defects within its normal life. GP Martini services Chester, Delaware, Bucks, and Montgomery counties with free estimates and consultation, and does both commercial and residential. Go to their website at martiniroofing.com for special savings, or call 610-873-1696. And also, financing is available with no payments for a full year. Now, what roofer would you call? GP Martini is the answer. 610-873-1696.
On April 19, Emma Bellows, an 8th grade mathematics teacher, took a wrong turn on her trip through Gettysburg's Lincoln Square. She had expected the historic battlefields, but now she stood in the middle of a contemporary food scene that rivaled anything she'd ever dreamt of. It was, she was heard to say, a culinary fantasy land, but with cider houses and wineries. For Emma, this one turn would change everything.
Make your own history. Visit DestinationGettysburg.com.
WCHE, Chester County's local news source that not only tells you what's happening, but is committed to telling you the behind-the-scenes reason why it's happening.
Welcome back to Art Watch. This is Lily Gaylor, and my wonderful guests on the show today are Tom Padon, Director of the Brandywine River Museum of Art in Chadds Pennsylvania, and Vickie Manning, owner of Somerville Manning Gallery in Greenville, Delaware. Both the museum and the gallery currently have important exhibitions honoring the life's work of Andrew Wyeth, which everyone should go see. So let's go back to our discussion about Andrew Wyeth, if that's okay with you guys. If you look at Andrew Wyeth's position in the art world today, what is it about Andrew Wyeth that from really the start of his painting career has made him have such a profound influence on us as artists, living artists right now, and on the art world?
Well, I think he certainly in his own lifetime he had very early success, extremely early success, especially with his first group of watercolors really brought him to attention, and then a group of early paintings which will be in this exhibition that were then shown at the Museum of Modern Art. So he had very early success, but then as the art world changed over the decades, everything from abstract expressionism to pop, Andrew Wyeth really continued to paint very personal subjects, the people and the places that surrounded him in Chadds Ford and then up in Maine where he would go.
He stuck to his vision.
He really did.
He stuck to his own vision.
He absolutely did. And also even painting in tempera. There was a tempera revival briefly in the 1930s. Andrew Wyeth continued painting in tempera when a lot of the other artists kind of dropped it and, went back to whatever, works in oil. Andrew Wyeth was fascinated by tempera, did some of his best work in it, and watercolors, and seeing the interaction between that and some of the studies that he did. I think it shows him I think a lot of people think that he just sat down and started doing these temperas where you get these very raw, visceral visions that he did of subjects when he was looking at them in preparation for these. So seeing the arc of his career, I think it shows this kind of timelessness. He's really, I think, kind of a quintessentially American artist. He painted these landscapes that are, in Maine and Chadds Ford that really have resonance with people. And Vickie, I know you were saying during the break about his the kind of timelessness of the subjects themselves too.
Well, I think most people, when they look at Andrew Wyeth, not most, but many, they look at it and they see either a realism and maybe a pretty picture, even though it's not pretty because they are bleak and they have tonality of a mood that he's always expressing. But they think he's photographic, and he's not photographic in the least bit. One of the most important things to me about Wyeth is what he leaves out of every painting, because any artist, whether you're a realist or not, you get to choose what goes in your work. And so what they're not recognizing, or what's important, is he's choosing every single object, brushstroke, and besides being a superb technician, which is what I think the first thing that grabs you, I think, about Andy. But besides that, he's really painting what's not there. I mean, NC would tell him, paint air. You have to paint air. You have
light.
Light and emotion and, feelings and what's not there. And so he literally leaves out. One of my favorite works is when at the Philadelphia Art Museum, when they had the show in 2006, when they owned Groundhog Day, and they did a room with all the studies that Andy had given them, and the tempera Groundhog Day. That finished tempera is a plate and some wallpaper, and it's about Mrs. Kerner.
In the Kerner farm.
In the Kerner farm. And but when you see all the studies, at one point he had her in it, he took her out. He had a dog in it, which he took out and represented by the wood, the sharp log, the broken log behind. He took her out and had the wallpaper instead representing her. And these are I think the nuances that are so fascinating about his work.
I think that when you see his work, there's such a sense of stillness and the quality of the light. It's really, he's painting that kind of psychology, whether it's the psychology of a room or his sitter. But as Vickie is saying, there's such an editing process that he brought to his subjects. And by the time you get to whether it's the final watercolor or the tempera, he has edited down, he's combined things. So while he paints in a very realistic manner, he can't be labeled just a realist artist because he manipulated the imagery so much. He combined things, left things out.
And he does, dozens and dozens and dozens of studies for one finished work. People don't realize how much, because he wants to get into that subject and know them from every angle, whether it's a figure or not. He wants to see it, feel it, close up, far away. Every possible perspective is his
I've heard it said that he said that he wished to paint his life story. Is that what he's doing? By all of the sketches. And
well,
then
I have one comment to make about that. And I'll let you go.
No, please.
But I had,
correct me.
To me, life story, I'm not so sure, but to me, one of the keys of Andrew Wyeth is his father, N.C. Wyeth, and understanding what he came from and what he was. And of course, that is what I know the most particularly about. But N.C. was, besides being an illustrator, he had 5 children that he raised, and every single one of them was so immensely creative. But he thrived on the on childlike, the imagination of children, and he loved that of all of them being young, and fostered imagination, intuition,
and love of history.
History. I mean, in that household, they were playing Beethoven all the time. He read stories to them all the time. There's a famous story about how he took them to see Errol Flynn in the movies in Wilmington, and when he came out, he said, "Now I know you all enjoyed that, but just remember how blank everybody's faces were that were watching. They didn't have to use their imagination. Everything was given to them. It's about having to think."
Oh, I love that story.
Yeah.
I'm a big Errol Flynn fan. That's great.
Well, and the exhibition really looks at some of these influences on him, like World War I. Even though he was born in 1917 when the war was ending, his father had, lantern slides and books about World War I. So he was haunted by that. And so the exhibition talks about the influence of this one film, The Big Parade, which looks at the kind of ravages of war and personal loss. But he was very interested in things like cinema and history.
Well, they say he saw that film like 180 times.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
What film are we talking about?
It's called The Big Parade.
It's a silent film
from the 20s.
And it was about World War I. And at the end of there's a scene where the wounded soldier is coming across. You can barely see him. There's a picture of it in the book. Yeah. And there's a wounded, you can barely see him, but it's this massive hill. And that was really powerful when I saw that image, because so much of what Wyeth paints is this big hill that represents to him
at
the Kerner Farm that really represents his father, and that's what he's this sense of strength and power, and then so many times loss. And I have one comment to make on that. It was interesting, and that I found I wrote, you mentioned earlier, the foreword to an online catalog for the show that we have, and one of the last sentences I wrote was that what his work is really about, not the pretty picture, but it's about his sense of emotion and loss. Every younger person said to me, "Loss of what? Loss of what?" Like, you have to define that, Vickie. And I thought, no, I don't. It's loss. It's a big word, and anyone I showed it to that was older, they got it. It's a very, it's loss of life and melancholy.
Yeah. There is a sense of loss, and also this kind of loneliness you were saying, but there's also kind of a level of anxiety in some of these works. There's this kind of tension, which I find really fascinating, whether it's with a sitter that was posing in a studio or a landscape. There's very often this kind of enigmatic narrative quality, this kind of tension, and I think it's fascinating. But in a way, I don't know whether he painted his life story, but in a way he did, because it was so personal to him, the subjects that he chose, whether they were people here in Chadds Ford or Maine. I mean, he chose those very carefully.
Well, and for him, everything was so about the emotion of that moment. Like, so many of the paintings are referential to something in his life that really draw. I don't know. I was just thinking of this one I was reading about that was, and looking at right now in the gallery, called Blowing Leaves, and he's trying to capture the feeling of these dead leaves blowing at the end of the season, and they're fluttering, and it's and then there's a white wall on a line on the left side. That was the corner of the house of the studio. That it's all about tying it into that emotion of the excitement he got of remembering his days in that studio.
I'm also struck by the number of times he could go back to the same subject again and again and find new inspiration from it.
Well, I can't wait to get to both of your shows, and certainly to go time and time again to the Brandywine River Museum of Art.
Can't wait to have you there.
And the Somerville Manning Gallery. I want to thank you both very much, to Tom Padon, director of the Brandywine River Museum of Art, and to Vickie Manning, owner of Somerville Manning Gallery in Greenville, Delaware. Be sure to visit the museum for Andrew Wyeth in Retrospect, now through September
17th.
And I don't know, I wrote 27th everywhere. And the Somerville Manning Gallery show Andrew Wyeth, A Survey, now through July 29th. Also be sure to check out the very first ever Montgomery County Studio Tour, which is this Saturday and Sunday. 51 artists at 20 different art studios scattered throughout the county for a great weekend art adventure for the whole family. Just thought I'd put that plug in. Next month's Art Watch is Wednesday, July 5th, where I will be speaking with Margaret Winslow and Molly Giordano from the Delaware Art Museum. This is Lily Gaylor. Stay tuned, and thanks for joining us today on Art Watch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lily.
Thank you.